Wilson was a quiet 13-year-old boy. He was the kind of boy who spent most of his time reading or staying in his own little world. One weekend in his town, a large house near his neighborhood had been sold off, and the family who owned it before had left behind many things that were now being offered in a second-hand sale. Wilson went with his mother Ella to look at the sale. There were books, old furniture, picture frames, and toys. And then his eyes locked on something that made his small heart skip. It was a doll. Not an ordinary doll, but something unusual, something strangely beautiful and strangely unsettling. It was called a Labubu doll. Its blue, glassy eyes gleamed as though they were alive, and its face carried a wide smile that never seemed to fade. Its ears were shaped like those of a rabbit, tall and delicate, and its golden fur shimmered even though the doll was clearly old and worn. The moment Wilson saw it, he felt something inside him, a pull. A strange affection, like the doll was not just a toy, but something he had been waiting to meet. He thought to himself, if I bring this doll to school, my friends will be so amazed. I will finally be popular. I will finally be noticed. Wilson begged his mother. At first, Ella resisted. She told him it was too old, too creepy. But Wilson did not give up. He pleaded and pleaded until finally she gave in and bought the doll. When they returned home, Wilson placed the Labubu doll carefully on the shelf in his bedroom, and he sat at his desk to do his homework. But as he tried to focus, his eyes kept drifting back toward the doll. And whenever he looked, he could swear the doll was smiling wider and almost beckoning him closer, like it wanted him to stop what he was doing and play. Wilson gave up on homework and picked up the doll. He played with it, laughed a little, even spoke to it, but soon his mother called him downstairs. Wilson placed the doll back on the shelf and turned away. At that exact moment, a heavy metal trophy from the highest shelf came crashing down, landing right where Wilson had been standing only seconds before. Had he not moved, he would have been struck in the head and badly injured. Wilson froze in fear, but quickly put the trophy back, afraid of being scolded by his mother. Over the next few days, strange things began happening. Every time Wilson played with the Labubu doll, something in the house would break or fall. A light bulb would explode without warning, or a glass window would crack suddenly for no reason. It became frequent, almost daily. And as days passed, Wilson noticed something terrifying. The smile on the Labubu doll seemed to grow wider, little by little. He confided in his father, told him that the doll was strange, told him that accidents happened whenever it was near. His father dismissed it, told him it was just his imagination. But to comfort him, he took the doll and promised he would throw it away the next day and buy him new toys instead. That night, Wilson slept peacefully at first, but in the middle of the night, a loud crash shook the house. Then he heard a scream, his father's scream. Wilson opened his eyes, and there it was, the Labubu doll lying right on his pillow, staring into his face with that endless smile. Wilson screamed, threw the doll across the room, and ran out. He saw his father at the bottom of the staircase, badly hurt, as though he had fallen. His mother rushed to take him to the hospital, and she told Wilson to stay at home. Wilson, terrified, sat in the living room, too afraid to return to his bedroom where the doll was. Eventually, exhaustion overcame him, and he fell asleep on the couch. When morning came, his mother returned and tried to wake him, and Wilson was horrified to see that the doll was lying right next to him on the couch as if it had been watching him. Sleep all night, he cried, told his mother everything, and she finally believed him. She took the doll and threw it into the trash bin outside the house. Wilson thought at last it was over. But that night, as he sat in the living room watching television, the rocking chair in the corner began to move all by itself, slowly back and forth, creaking. And there on the chair sat the Labubu doll, its glass eyes turned toward Wilson, and for the first time he saw them move. They blinked and shifted and stared directly into his own eyes. Wilson ran from the room screaming. The next morning, Wilson returned to the old house where the second-hand sale had been held, desperate for answers. The house stood empty. The guard at the gate was still there, and Wilson approached him. The guard shook his head when Wilson described the doll and said that doll came from a toy shop in China. The family who lived there had ordered it years ago, and ever since the doll entered the home, misfortune struck them. They became sick, lost their money, and slowly lost their minds. They fought constantly, and within months the house was ruined. They sold it off and left, and the doll remained with the sale. The guard whispered something else, something that made Wilson shiver. At night, he said, strange laughter would echo inside the house, laughter that did not belong to anyone. But since the doll left the house, the laughter was gone. Wilson returned to school, still shaken, and during recess, he carried the doll hidden in his bag, planning to throw it away in the playground far from his home. He tossed it into the grass and turned away, relieved. But his best friend Chris noticed and picked it up laughing. Look at this weird thing, you are scared of a toy. Wilson begged him to put it down, begged him to throw it away, but Chris only laughed harder. In that moment, a baseball flew across the field with unnatural speed, striking Chris directly on the head. He fell to the ground onto a sharp nail that pierced his skull and killed him instantly. Everyone thought it was a tragic freak accident, but Wilson knew. He knew the doll was cursed. That night, in desperation, he took the doll and tore it apart piece by piece. He burned its golden fur and shattered its glassy eyes. He thought it was finally destroyed. But when he returned to his room, the doll was there again, sitting whole on his desk, smiling wider than ever. And from within its body came a sound, a low, chilling laugh like it was mocking him. Wilson could not sleep. He stared all night, trembling, watching the doll while it watched him. The next morning, his parents found strange bite marks covering his body. They were horrified, and finally they believed everything. They called a priest. The priest entered their home, and the moment he saw the Labubu doll, his face grew pale. "This is not a toy," he said. "This is an evil entity, a vessel for something ancient and dark." He ordered the family to leave at once. He performed rituals, prayers, and sealed the doll inside a heavy iron box, then buried it near the grounds of the old house where Wilson had first found it. Wilson and his family felt a wave of relief, thinking the nightmare was over. But the next morning, news came that the priest had died in a car accident. Fear consumed them. They left their home, left the town altogether, and moved far away, never to return. From that day forward, the doll never appeared again. But Wilson, even as he grew older, even as he tried to live a normal life, would still wake in the night from dreams of that golden fur and those blue glass eyes and that endless smile. The Labubu doll haunted him in his sleep and in his memories, and sometimes he swore he could still hear that laughter echoing in the dark corners of his room. So tell me, what do you think? Was the Labubu doll truly haunted, or was it cursed? Or was Wilson simply the chosen victim of something that wanted to destroy?